But that's probably what we would look for. Somebody with the same style of Francis, that warmth, that heart, that smile, that goodness, that embrace.
I think the revolution is going to continue, but I also don't know if a John Paul III or Benedict XVII is going to be what the church needs right now. It's
Even Chaput came out and said, now's the time for crystal clarity. These cardinals need to have rock solid sobriety as they go into this conclave, because they got to make a decision that's going to give us a guy who's going to have a spinal fortitude to stand up.
No matter who comes out, it's either you're going to get somebody who's a known liberal, and you're going to have chaos within the church, and the fighting will continue inside the church. Or
by the way, my name is Joe McClane. I host a radio program called A Catholic Take, where we look at the world through a Catholic lens. I'd love for you to hang out with us. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below.
I don't know if you caught this or not, but let me play this clip for you from Cardinal Dolan on the Today Show when asked about who he's going to be looking for when he enters the Sistine Chapel.
What do you want to see in terms of the next pope?
Well, you'd always, when you get to be 75 like I am, you kind of got in your memory bank past popes. And you kind of are always dreaming of a blend of them. I'd love to see somebody with the vigor and the conviction and the fortitude of John Paul. I'd love to see somebody with the intellectual wattage of a Pope Benedict. I'd love to see somebody with the heart of a Pope Francis. How we can blend them all. We're not in some laboratory doing genetic mutations here, but that's probably what we would look for. Somebody with the same style of Francis, that warmth, that heart, that smile, that goodness, that embrace, and maybe within a little bit of a blend with John Paul and Benedict when it would come to more, more clarity in teaching, more refinement of the church's tradition, more digging in the treasures of the past to remind us of what Jesus expects of us now. Probably a blend of the great popes that we've recently had. That's what we'd be.
Do they want a Francis II? That's the question. Well, I wanted to hold somebody accountable and blamable for all that comes out of New York, so I invited Anthony Abbate from the Avoiding Babylon podcast to stand on the carpet and give an account. Good morning to you, Anthony. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Joe. I'm a huge fan. I watch every single morning. I can't believe I'm here. This is like, I'm starstruck right now.
From your lips to God's ears, Anthony. From your lips to God's ears.
Dolan's an interesting
He's your bishop,
guy.
Right? He's your bishop, isn't he?
Technically, no. So I'm one diocese over, but he's the archbishop. Like he's the Archbishop of New York, so he does have seniority over my diocese in some strange way. But Dolan he was the first Archbishop to host like the LGBT segment at the St. Patty's Day parade, but then 2 weeks later traveled to my diocese and confirmed my daughter in the old rite.
Oh wow!
Like he's
in the old rite.
He's in the old rite, and this was after Traditionis. So he's an interesting guy. He's not a bad guy. Like he's always been really friendly to the pro-life movement, but he just comes off as a politician to me, and he's kind of like a weather vane. He knows where the wind is blowing, so he wants to keep in good with all the different groups. And I mean, he's just a jolly Irishman, in my opinion. He's not a villain, though. I think he's just kind of a. Do
you think the Cardinals, because what he said there was they're basically looking for Francis II with more theological meat on the bone, is how I took it. How did you take it?
Well, you had Father Murray on yesterday, who I like a lot too. And I think, especially for guys like us, we grew up under John Paul II. We grew up under Benedict. We loved the clarity that we got from those times. So we look back on the JP2 era as like the golden age of Catholicism. Now, I don't know if that's what these guys are going to do in Conclave. I think that I think the revolution is going to continue, but I also don't know if a John Paul III or a Benedict XVII is going to be what the church needs right now. It's a bit dangerous. And
yeah, more of the same, right? It's just more of the same. We definitely don't want or need more of the same.
Well, what it is because I wasn't really around too much for it, but I saw somebody posted yesterday that if there was social media available during the pontificate of John Paul II, all the nuns and like religious orders would have been going crazy on him at the time. Like it was a different time. Everybody saw John Paul II as a conservative. He was fighting communism. He was up against all the evils of the world, but then years later, we all look back on him, and then I don't think the people at the time picked up on the Assisi meetings the way we do now, looking in hindsight. Sure, so yeah. It's interesting to think where all of this started. It really does start with the ecumenical outreach and having a different view of Protestants and our interreligious dialogue and stuff like that. And I kind of see Francis as just the logical conclusion to all of that.
Now, is some of that, though, because of the age of digital media? I mean, you run a podcast, Avoiding Babylon. You've got a great audience, a good reach. So now we can talk about things almost in real time in a way that wasn't possible during the Assisi meeting under JP2.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's also they've lost the ability to gatekeep the conversation. Right. It was a lot easier for them to just have one or two outlets that they would feed news to, and people would get a very specific interpretation of events and how things were going along. So what happens now with all of us being able to just jump on and, prognosticate on whatever events we're seeing, it really has led to a fracturing of the church in some ways. Like I'm really hoping that whoever is elected can heal some of the wounds amongst the brothers in the Catholic laity, because I think that there are good people who are what we would call pope-splainers, who kind of make excuses for everything Francis says. I do think that is a good instinct to want to defend your father, right? So these I'm not talking about the liberal Catholics. I'm talking about the good Catholics who just have the instinct to defend their father. Then you have the more trad guys who are just seeing everything and they're just, devastated by what they're seeing. But if you have a good pope, if we can at least unite those guys, because I think they all have the Catholic faith, where they might be infighting right now under Francis because it's a little chaotic. I really do just pray that all of us can come together in some way.
Well, I mean, I was sort of touching on that with Robert Nugent in the last segment. According to the document out of the Vatican that governs this interregnum period, there's only 120 cardinal electors allowed at the Sistine Chapel. There's 132, I think he said, right now that are inbound. How do they decide which 120 it's going to be? And what if 121 is in the room?
That is interesting.
I can hear the debates now on podcasts. They're going to, it's an invalid election and this is not the true pope. And we're going to go yet another pontificate of debating endlessly about it all.
I was saying, like, if when Francis had first gotten sick, if he had stepped down and resigned, you'd have had the Francis Vacantus, like you had the Bene Vacantus when Benedict resigned. It would have just been total chaos. I am glad that Francis never did resign and that he waited until the end.
Yeah, me too.
Like that, I think that would have been a total disaster. I think I am curious to see how the guys who hold the Beneplenus position, I guess you would call it, or the whatever the proper term for the guys who think Benedict didn't step down properly. I'm curious to see what they think of this next conclave. I don't know if that is the case. Are the cardinals that Francis elevated valid cardinals? I think you're going to have chaos no matter what happens.
I've already seen their comments. They're all over X that these aren't even real bishops. They're not even real cardinal. I mean, so how are you ever going to satisfy unless St. Peter himself descends upon a cloud and presents the next guy as the Pope? There's going to be a certain segment that are just never going to accept whatever happens next. Yeah. And which I find tragic, to say the least. But I don't know. I guess the real question in my mind is, given the College of Cardinals that we have to work with, is it even possible to expect, or I guess maybe word this a different way, what would be the best expectation coming out on the Loggia? Is it going to be a Pizzaballa? I mean, is it going to be an Erdo? I mean, I just think Erdo is probably a bridge too far for most. Hezbollah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe the Israeli-Gaza conflict is a wee bit too contentious right now. I don't know. What do you say?
Okay, so no matter who comes out, it's either you're going to get somebody who's a known liberal, and you're going to have chaos within the church, and the fighting will continue inside the church. Or if you get a Sarah, or you get an Erdo, or you get a Pizza Balla, if you get one of them, what'll happen is the chaos will then turn from without the church. No matter what, it's going to be difficult ahead. I think people need to prepare themselves for some very hard times ahead, because if you got even a Benedict the 17th figure, like I know Anthony Stein's on with you often, he thinks that would be like a worst case scenario, because then, you know, people would go back to treating him as if he is Benedict or something. And there are some real major issues that have to be clarified. But I think if you got somebody that was very orthodox in their doctrine and faith, you'd have the media turn on them. And I think a lot of the reason Catholics are not persecuted in the world right now is because they saw Francis as bringing the church towards their ends. So they kind of took it easy on Catholics. The media was constantly talking about how great Francis is, the people's pope, and he allowed gay unions to be blessed and all these things. Now, if they see a sudden 180 turn on those positions, you'll start to see us being called bigots and things like that. So something like that would build the body of Christ up, because that's actually how the church is built, is through persecution. So it's either persecution from without or persecution from within. Either way, it's a difficult road ahead.
Yeah. And just thinking about the legacy of Francis kind of gets me in trouble right now, because there's a lot of folks that think that it's insensitive to be critical of a man who's lying in his coffin in state and as people mourn him. And I can see the argument. I can appreciate it. But nonetheless, where was the sensitivity for those that died without the sacraments during the lockdowns that he so wholeheartedly supported, and those that didn't receive confession or last rites, or that he, because of his statements, lost their jobs and their livelihoods because they didn't want to get a jab that was linked to abortion? I mean, there were so many things that are very, very troubling over the last 12 years. It's hard to not just, be truthful about it. Even Chaput, not that far away from you over there in Philadelphia, even Chaput came out and said, now's the time for crystal clarity. These cardinals need to have rock solid sobriety as they go into this conclave, because they got to make a decision that's going to give us a guy who's going to have a spinal fortitude to stand up to the world, the flesh, and the devil and do what is right instead of what is wrong. But instead, politicking goes on behind the scenes, and Cardinal Dolan, I think, is sort of intimating that right now. It's Francis II is on the agenda.
Because you want more, and I want to give it to you. I'm rolling out a brand new membership program for the insiders of this channel. Join today. There's something for everyone. And because you could help me fund the next documentary film, the next book project, audio drama, audio narrations, and other projects that I have been dreaming to work on, but simply don't have the resources to accomplish. You and I together can do amazing things. You want more, and I want to give it to you.
I just got word, by the way, thanks to our good friend Michael Haynes, just reached out to me from LifeSite News, senior Vatican correspondent in Rome. He just told me to answer the question over 120. So the document that rules this says there's a maximum number of cardinal electors must not exceed 120. He just said that he had a conversation with Father Gerald Murray, whom we had on yesterday, canon lawyer. And according to Father Murray, they simply overrule this. If there's more than 120, they simply overrule it and they just move on. So I guess it's not written in stone. Anthony, welcome back. There's something I do want to ask you. What do you think is the most positive thing about the Francis pontificate over the past 12 years?
Francis was, I have to think of what the proper word for it, but he was kind of, his papacy made those who were weak in faith leave, and those who were strong in faith dig in deeper. So if it wasn't for Francis, I'd never have found tradition. I'd never have met so many of the good people that I have met over the course of the years. I don't think I would have a there's no way I would have a podcast. Like part of the difficulties of what we went through under. So basically, anything that good comes in your life is going to come through a cross. And look, it was tricky being under Francis, but they weren't physical persecutions. All of them were. It's kind of like psychological torture we went through a bit, constantly worrying if we were going to lose our mass, things like that. But it did make those of us who were taking our faith seriously dig in deeper and want to really grow closer to Jesus Christ. In my opinion, I mean, that was the effect it had on me.
Mm. It is interesting because despite the fact, or in spite of the fact of Traditionis Custodes, which, by the way, I think the match that started the fire was in France. But 10,000 came into the church in France. They had like a 38% increase in conversions in France just this Easter alone. So, and it's the largest traditional pilgrimage, Sartre pilgrimage this year in the history of it. Ooh. So, despite the efforts to subdue tradition there, tradition is growing there. I mean, that's great news, wouldn't you say?
I've said Francis is the greatest proponent of tradition since Lefebvre. Lefebvre did what he did, but Francis drove so many people to tradition. Now, there's something to when they say Taylor Marshall is the reason that we lost the Latin Mass. It's not that Taylor really was. It's that through what we were seeing in the church, people were looking for a place to have a solid foundation. So guys like Taylor and Tim Gordon and all the guys from the early days who were speaking out against this stuff, they started talking about the Latin Mass, and you got a lot of people who just went to find a traditional liturgy because they knew they'd find like-minded Catholics at those parishes. So, there's a lot of comments that you'll see where it's like, 97% or 98% of the people who attend the Latin Mass believe in the real presence, where it's like 8% in the Novus Ordo. Well, yes, but that's because the people attending a traditional liturgy are very intentional about their faith. So you are getting people there that already are taking their faith seriously. So you do get, it's not a great metric to use, because the people that go there are there because they take their faith seriously and they want to meet other people who take their faith seriously.
Yeah. Francis, I think the biggest benefit we got out of the Francis pontificate is the contrast, the clarity and the contrast. It seemed like they weren't hiding in the shadows over the past 12 years anymore. Mm-hmm. Like before that, sort of lurking in the shadows, this modernist, liberalist movement, lurking in the shadows. And it seems like over the last 12 years, they've come out into the light. And now things are way more clear. And I think the average Catholic now has an opportunity to make a better and more informed choice. Would you say so?
Think about how many cardinals and bishops under Benedict we thought were good guys. We were like, oh, he's on our side. He's on our side. But they were paying lips. I mean, there were guys who just paid lip service to the pro-life movement. And you thought, oh, this is a good bishop. This is a good bishop. As soon as Francis came out, those guys, the mask dropped off all of them. He is the great clarifier, Francis. Yes, it was difficult to be Catholic under his papacy, but man, did you get a more clear vision of what the reality was. It was, you think about even after the priest scandals and after the sex abuse crisis, how many of us were so quick to defend priests. And man, when you look back on it, it's like we were like, don't lump one bad in and don't let one apple spoil the whole bunch, things like that. But there were real problems in the church. And I think Francis made a lot of Catholics wake up to the fact that, hey, maybe 80% of our priests are maybe not active in that lifestyle, but silent on it and supportive of it in their silence. And, we talk a lot about how the next generation of priests that are coming up are way more conservative, right? And that's because even through this, the people that become priests now are the ones who are like, man, I'm going to lay down my life as a sacrifice because it's going to be crazy going forward.
I'm a convert.
think there are
You're a
many-
convert too, right? You're a convert to the church.
No, I'm a cradle Catholic. I've been Catholic since the womb.
Oh, is that right? Since the you wish, pal. You were a pagan until you were baptized. I'm a convert to the church, and I got to say that I feel like I was really incredibly naive for the longest time. I just assumed, hey, we're all on the same page, until I realized there were Catholics that weren't. And I was like, that's just bizarre and weird. Like, why are you Catholic if you don't believe what the Catholic Church teaches? But and then I was even more naive to the fact, especially as I became Catholic in New England under the realization of the sexual abuse scandal that broke out of Boston over there. The bishop who confirmed me admitted his own guilt in covering up and hiding homosexual predators. It just blew me away. I'm like, how could there be bishops that are bishops and still doing these things? It just seemed rather otherworldly to me. And I think under the last 12 years, we've discovered that, again, they're not hiding anymore. Hollerich and these types of guys, they come out and they tell you exactly what they think and feel these days. I mean, now it's gotten so bad that even the Freemasons have expressed their condolences. The Grand Lodge of Italy has expressed its condolences and its fraternity and solidarity, its brotherly love to Jorge Bergoglio, because it seemed like they were working towards the same goals. I mean, that's how bizarre the times we're living in. And yet, honestly, Anthony, the vast majority of Catholics are probably still foggy-brained, in confusion, don't really understand why this matters one way or the other, and probably just think we're being too critical.
I think we are in a bit of a bubble. I'm not sure any of us really get how most of the people in the pews had no idea Francis was causing these problems. There are so many nominal Catholics who go to Mass on Sunday because they were brought up that way, but don't actually pay attention to what's going on. And I think that, I think things are pretty messy, and the average Catholic isn't aware of it.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.